The jungle on planet Draxo 7 looked calm from the sky. Green trees stretched for miles, silent and still like a painting. But the human named Carter didn't trust what he saw. He stood at the edge of the landing platform, eyes locked on the trees. His voice was quiet, but strong. "Don't go in there," he said. General Viren of the Threx Empire laughed out loud. She was tall, proud, and covered in red armor made from crushed insect shells. Her voice was sharp, full of pride, human. "Your fear is showing," she said with a smirk. "We conquered 5 death worlds. This forest is nothing." Carter didn't smile. He had seen what the jungle could do last year. A human scout team entered the trees. None came back. No screams, no signals, just silence, like the forest swallowed them whole. "You think it's just trees," Carter said slowly, "but this place is alive, and it hates intruders." Viren waved him off like dust on her shoulder. "Stay here and tremble, human," she said. Then she turned to her squad of 10 elite Threx soldiers. "March," she ordered, and just like that, they stepped into the green shadows. Carter stayed behind. He watched as the jungle swallowed them. The sunlight disappeared behind thick vines and massive leaves, and the silence returned heavier than before. Inside the jungle, the Threx soldiers walked with confidence. Their boots crunched leaves. Their scanners blinked. The air was warm, the smell thick with damp wood and strange flowers. Viren kept her chin high. "See?" she said. "No danger, just plants." But then the trees moved. Not from wind, because there was none. The branches curled slightly, just enough to change shape. And the vines overhead slid like snakes. Private Cern was the first to stop walking. He looked up, confused. "General." "The trees are different now," he said. Viren raised an eyebrow, then looked up. She frowned, but said nothing. They kept walking, but slower. The sounds began to change. Birds, insects, small animals gone, replaced by a low hum like breathing. And that's when the ground began to shift. Cern took another step, then fell. No scream, no struggle. He simply vanished, swallowed by the ground. Only his helmet rolled out, cracked and empty. Viren's eyes widened. "Defensive line," she shouted. The soldiers drew weapons, circled tightly. But their laser rifles didn't beep. No power. Their tech was dead, drained by something unseen. One soldier tried to call for help. No signal. "General," he whispered, voice shaking. The jungle was eating everything, not just bodies, but energy, light, sound. Something old lived here, and it was awake. Viren backed against a tree, heart racing. She looked up again, and this time, she saw its eyes in the leaves, watching. Blinking, not animals, not machines, but something else. "Fall back," she shouted, but the jungle closed in, vines falling like ropes. One soldier screamed as roots wrapped around his legs. Another fired blindly into the trees, but the shot turned to smoke. They were losing, one by one. Her elite warriors vanished. Dragged into the green, smothered by silence, she turned in panic. And that's when she saw him, Carter, the human, standing just beyond the tree line. He hadn't moved since she left him, but now he looked at her with quiet eyes, almost sad. "Not angry. Help us," she cried out, her pride cracked in her voice. Carter didn't move. He didn't answer. The jungle wrapped around her ankles, pulling gently. She tried to fight it, but the more she struggled, the tighter it gripped. She looked at Carter again. His voice finally came, soft and cold. "I warned you," he said. Then he disappeared into the trees. Viren screamed his name, but only the forest answered, and the leaves above her closed like a giant mouth. Swallowing her into the darkness, Viren fell hard, face first, into wet dirt. The air smelled of mold, old blood, and something sweet like rot. The vines around her legs loosened. then pulled back into the trees. She sat up fast, gasping, armor scratched, her pride shattered. All her elite soldiers were gone. All except one Lieutenant Nira, who crawled beside her, breathing hard. "Where's the rest?" Viren asked, looking around. "Only green. Thick green, leaves as big as shields. Roots like twisted ropes." No answer. Nira said, voice shaking, "I think they're gone." The jungle was quiet again. Too quiet. No bird sounds, no insects. No wind, only that same deep hum, like a beast breathing beneath the soil. Viren stood slowly, her armor hissing softly as it adjusted. Her red cape was torn, her helmet missing. She touched her device, but it was dead. No signal, no power. Her armor's lights blinked once, then died too. Even the backup battery didn't work. This place? "It eats energy," she said quietly. "It's not natural," Nero whispered, eyes wide. Viren scanned the trees. Everything looked the same, but something had changed. The path they came from was gone. The jungle had shifted while they were. Unconscious vines covered their footprints. New trees stood where old ones were. It was like the forest was rearranging itself. "Stay close," Viren ordered, voice low. She drew her blade, not energy-based, just sharp steel, one of the few tools the jungle hadn't taken from her. Nira did the same, and the two began walking. Slowly, carefully, one step at a time, the forest closed in tighter with every step. Thick roots forced them to climb or crawl. Sticky webs brushed against their faces, and the air grew hotter, heavier, like breathing through wet cloth. Then came the whisper, soft, just behind Viren's ear. A voice not Nero's, not Carter's. It spoke in a language she didn't know, but somehow she understood. "You were warned," it said. She spun around, blade raised nothing. Only vines swaying slightly. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Nira nodded slowly, her face pale. "It's speaking to us," she whispered. "But I don't think it's using words." Something brushed past them, fast, like wind, but not wind. A blur, too fast to see. Nira screamed, swinging her blade wildly. Then silence again. "We're being watched." Viren said, "No." Nira said, voice cracking, "We're being judged." The ground beneath them trembled softly, then cracked, open with a deep sound like thunder. A glowing red line spread across the dirt. Something was waking beneath the soil. "Run," Viren ordered. They ran, blindly, cutting through vines and branches. The jungle tried to slow them, wrapping around their legs, slapping their faces, but they pushed through. Finally, they reached a clearing. An old structure stood. In the center stone, broken, ancient, covered in moss and alien markings. Viren stopped, breathing hard. "This isn't Threx," she said. Nira touched the wall gently. "No. This is older than any empire." A sudden noise made them turn footsteps, but not heavy, not metallic, soft, slow. Someone was walking toward them. From the shadows came Carter, the human, his uniform dirty, torn at the shoulder, but he looked calm, like he belonged here. "You followed us?" Viren asked, surprised. "No," Carter said. "You're where the forest wanted you to be." She raised her blade. "Start talking." He didn't flinch. "This jungle is alive, not just plants, not just creatures. It's a guardian," he said, "protecting something very old, very angry." "What does it want?" Nira asked. Carter looked at Viren. "It wanted to test you," he said, "to see if you're worthy." "Worthy of what?" Viren asked, frowning. But Carter only looked at the stone structure, and the forest answered with a sound. A deep, rumbling groan from below the ground, like something massive turning in its sleep. The vines around the clearing moved again. This time not to attack, but to form a ring around them, trapping them inside. "The test isn't over," Carter said. not even close. Viren clenched her blade. I don't take orders from trees. She growled. Carter stepped forward, his eyes cold. Then you'd better be ready to bleed. The vines rose high around the clearing, like walls made of living rope. They twisted upward, blocking sunlight, turning day into green darkness. Viren stood still, blade in hand, but even her sharp steel felt useless now. This is a trap, Nira whispered. Carter shook his head slowly. No, he said, this is a prison. Viren moved closer to the stone structure. Its carvings glowed faintly now, symbols shifting, rearranging before her eyes. It's writing, she muttered. But not in any language I know. It's not meant to be read, Carter said quietly. It's meant to be felt. Viren turned sharply. You speak like this jungle is a person, she said. Carter looked at her, tired but serious. It might as well be, he replied. It remembers everything, especially arrogance. Viren flinched, not from his words, but from the truth behind them. She remembered laughing at his warning, stepping proudly into the trees, thinking herself untouchable. Now her soldiers were gone, and she was trapped in a place where even time seemed to twist. The jungle didn't kill with speed, it killed with memory. Suddenly, the stone structure shimmered. A pulse of light spread through the ground, and the clearing changed. Viren blinked. They were no longer in a jungle. They were on a battlefield. Her battlefield. She saw herself months ago, ordering fire on a village she thought was hiding. Rebels, the smoke, the screams, the faces of frightened children, it all came rushing back. She stumbled backward, eyes wide. What is this? She shouted. Carter didn't answer. He was staring at something to his own past. Nira dropped to her knees, tears in her eyes. Why is it showing us this? She cried. Viren's voice trembled. It's not a vision, she said. It's a mirror. The jungle wasn't just punishing them. It was forcing them to see who they truly were. And the weight of their past was heavier than any weapon. Viren turned away, but the images followed her. A soldier begging for mercy, a civilian, dying under her orders, the regrets she buried, now rising like ghosts. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The vines held the space shut. The jungle wanted her to break, to kneel, to beg, to change. Carter finally spoke. This happened to me too. He said, when I first landed here, I saw my worst moments. I lost men because I didn't listen to my gut. I thought I knew better. Viren looked at him, her anger softening. You escaped, she said. How? I didn't escape, he replied. I accepted. He pointed to the glowing symbols. They're not judging you, he said. They're waiting. Viren closed her eyes. The images kept coming, painful, brutal, but also honest. She dropped her sword, let it fall to the mossy floor. Then she spoke. I was wrong. She said softly, I was proud, blind, cruel. The jungle listened, the vines trembled. The stone glowed warmer. Nira watched in silence, then followed. I feared weakness, she said. But I think true strength is knowing when you were wrong. Carter nodded. The jungle isn't your enemy, he said. It's your trial. Viren stepped forward. Toward the stone, she placed her hand on its surface. It was warm now, like skin. And the carvings stopped shifting. They settled into one clear symbol, a circle inside a triangle. She didn't know what it meant, but she felt lighter. As if some invisible weight had been lifted, the vines slowly unwrapped, falling away like curtains. The sunlight returned, birds sang again, faint but real. The prison was gone, but the regret remained. Viren picked up her sword, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. She turned to Carter. I didn't listen before, she said, but now I will. He gave a small nod. Then we still have a chance. She didn't ask what came next, because she already knew. The jungle had shown them who they were, but it had also offered a path forward, and now they had to walk it together. The jungle gave them a path, but it was not straight and it was not safe. The trees still moved, the roots still watched, and the vines still whispered as they walked. Viren led the way now, but her steps were slower, not from weakness, but from respect. Her pride had been broken, but something stronger had taken its place. Understanding. Behind her, Nira stayed close, her eyes alert. Carter walked beside them, silent. The jungle didn't fight them now, but it didn't trust them either. They came upon another clearing. This one was darker, colder. Black stone pillars rose from the ground like giant bones. At the center stood a tall figure, frozen in time. It was a statue, or so it seemed at first. Then its eyes opened, burning red, ancient, and full of judgment. Carter stepped forward carefully. "This is the warden," he said. "I've only heard stories." Viren narrowed her eyes. "It's not human," she said. "It's not Threx either." "No," Carter said. "It was made by something older than both our species." The warden moved its arm, slow like stone grinding. It didn't speak with a mouth. Its voice came through the air itself. "You have entered sacred ground," it said. "You carry pride, and pride brings death." Viren raised her hands, showing she meant no harm. "I came here to lead my soldiers," she said, "but now they're gone because I refuse to listen." The warden's eyes glowed brighter. "Pride is not leadership," it said. "Pride blinds the eyes and deafens the ears." Nira stepped beside her general. "We've seen the truth," she said. "The jungle showed us." The warden paused, then lifted one hand and pointed toward a stone bench. "Then sit," it commanded. "Speak your truth and pay your price." Viren walked slowly to the bench and sat. It was cold, rough, but she didn't move. She looked at the warden and began to speak. "I mocked the human's warning," she said. "I thought my rank made me wiser, but it made me blind." She paused, her voice lower. "I ordered good soldiers into danger. Without thinking, they trusted me, and I failed them." The jungle around them seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind stopped. The warden's red eyes dimmed slightly, and then it spoke again. "Your truth has been spoken," it said. "But truth alone is not the price." Carter stepped forward. "She's changed," he said. "She's not the same leader who entered these woods." The warden looked at him. "Change must be proven, not claimed," it said. "To pass, she must walk the shadow path." "What is that?" Viren asked. "A test," the warden replied. "You will go alone, with no weapons, no armor. If you return, the jungle will let you leave." Viren hesitated for only a moment. Then she stood and removed her chest plate, then her arm, guards her boots, until she stood in simple fabric. No symbols, no power, no protection. Carter looked at her. "You don't have to do this," he said. She met his eyes and said, "Yes, I do." She stepped onto the path that opened in the ground. It was narrow, dark, and sank deep into the jungle floor. The roots closed behind her, and then she was gone. Nira turned to Carter. "How long will she be in there?" she asked. He shook his head. "No one knows," he said. "For some, it's minutes. For others, it's forever, inside the shadow path." Viren walked barefoot. The ground was soft, like old leaves. Shapes moved in the dark around her. Whispers grew louder, not in her ears, but in her mind. Voices of her soldiers, some angry, some sad. One by one, they stepped out from the shadows, ghostly figures, all staring at her. "You led us to die," one said. "You laughed at the warning," said another. Viren didn't run. She looked each face in the eye. "I failed you," she said. "I will carry your memory always." One figure stepped closer. Private Cern, the first to vanish. "You were proud," he said, "but not evil." He touched her shoulder, and suddenly the shadows faded. The path lit up with soft light, and the exit opened ahead. Viren stepped out, back into the clearing, barefoot and changed. Carter and Nira rushed to her. She smiled, tired but calm. "I paid the price," she said. The warden lowered its hand. The vines opened completely, and the tree stood still for the first time. "You may leave," it said, "but remember, pride grows back fast." Viren nodded. "I'll never forget," she said. The jungle opened a path, but it didn't feel like freedom. Viren, Carter, and Nira walked through thick mist. The trees were silent, but watching. The test was over, but the danger was not. Their boots sank into soft moss, roots still curled. Along the edges of the path, like sleeping snakes, no sounds of animals, no chirping birds, only the slow beat of their own footsteps. "We passed the warden's test," Nira said quietly. "So why does this still feel wrong?" Carter didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Because something else is waiting." Viren walked ahead of them, her face calm, but her mind racing. She had changed, yes. But the jungle hadn't let them go, not fully. Ahead, the path turned. Downward into a cave, the air grew colder, the light faded. Viren stopped at the entrance. "What is this place?" she asked. Carter looked into the darkness. "The roots of the jungle," he said. "And the place where bargains are made." Viren frowned. "What kind of bargains?" "The kind with a cost," he said. "Sometimes the jungle wants more." Then truth. They entered the cave together, inside. Glowing fungi lit the walls in blue and green. The ground pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat, and deep within the cave. A pool of black water waited, still, silent, perfect. A voice echoed through the cave. It was old, layered, and everywhere at once. "You seek to leave, but you are not free." Viren stepped forward. "We passed the warden's test," she said. "We faced our past, admitted our faults." The voice answered. "You faced what you were, but you have not chosen what you will become." Carter touched her arm gently. "This is the deal," he whispered. "Every leader who leaves. This jungle must give something." The water in the pool began to ripple, and from it rose three shapes reflections of Viren. One wore a crown, standing tall, eyes full of fire. Another wore chains, kneeling, face full of guilt. The last was simple, plain, holding a child in her arms. The voice asked, "Who will you become?" Viren stared at each version of herself. The crowned one looked powerful, but cold. The chained one looked honest, but broken. The third looked human, not perfect, but whole. She stepped toward the last reflection. "I choose this," she said, "a leader who listens, who learns." The water shimmered, and the other two vanished. Only the simple reflection remained. It bowed, then melted into the pool. "You have chosen humility," the voice said, "a rare path." The water began to swirl faster. A single object rose from a Tadestone pendant, round and smooth. "This will mark your promise," the voice said. "If you break it, the jungle will return." Viren took the pendant. It pulsed once in her hand, warm and alive. She nodded. "I will keep my word." The path behind them opened. Light shone through the cave entrance. The jungle had accepted her choice. As they walked out of the cave, Nira looked at the pendant. "What does it do?" she asked. Viren smiled slightly. "It reminds me who I could have been, back in the forest." The mist began to clear. Sunlight broke through the trees, birds returned to the branches, and the jungle, at last, seemed to rest. Carter stopped. "At a fork in the path, this is where I go," he said. "You're not coming with us?" Nira asked, surprised. He shook his head. "My mission was to guide." He said, "Yours is to lead." Viren held out her hand. Carter took it with a firm grip. "You saved more than just lives," she said. "You saved a future." He smiled. Faintly, Just remember what the jungle taught you, he said. Every choice echoes. Then he turned, walking into the trees, and just like that he was gone. Viren looked down at the pendant. The jungle had nearly destroyed her, but it had also given her something she never had before. Wisdom earned, not forced. And now, as the path cleared before them, she walked not as a general, but as someone reborn, humbled, scarred, and stronger than ever. The forest was behind them now. But the jungle never truly let go. Even as Vera and Nira walked under clear skies, they still felt eyes watching from the shadows. And they still heard faint whispers behind the wind. The path out led to the old ruins of a research base, built by explorers who vanished years ago. It stood half-covered in moss and roots. Dead screens flickered in the control room, and dust floated in the air like forgotten time. This place hasn't been touched in cycles, Nira said. Viren nodded slowly, but someone left it powered. The lights hummed faintly, and the walls still held messages, logs, names, warnings written in dozens of alien languages. Viren approached a cracked terminal and brushed away dirt. It glowed weakly. Lines of text appeared on the screen. Then a voice, robotic and cold, filled the room. Trial of echoes initiated. It said, 1 leader, 1 witness, truth will be tested. What now? Nira whispered before Viren could answer. A blinding white light burst from the screen, and the world around them changed again. They were no longer in the ruins, no longer in the jungle. They stood inside a massive hall. Its walls, made of light and sound, rows of silent figures lined both sides, holograms, projections, or something more. Each one a version of Viren, young, old, cruel, kind. Each one watching her, judging her. Nira stood beside her, silent but solid she was. The witness and Viren was on trial. A voice echoed from above. But it was not angry. It was calm, curious, ancient. Tell us who you are, it said. Viren stood tall. I am Viren of the Threx Empire, she said. General. Warrior, survivor. The figures didn't move. Tell us who you were, the voice said again. She hesitated, then spoke again, softer. I was arrogant, she said. I believed my rank made me right. I led my soldiers into a jungle I didn't understand, and I ignored a warning that could have saved them. The figures shifted. Some nodded, others turned away. Tell us who you became, the voice said. I became someone who listens, she said. Someone who sees value in the voices I once ignored. I walked the shadow path and chose humility. I don't command by fear, now I lead. By choice, the hall grew brighter, but the voice continued, then prove it. From the side of the hall, 3 doors appeared, each marked with a symbol. One was a sword, one was a flame, one was an open hand. You may choose only one, the voice said. Each door holds a future. Only one keeps the path you claim. Viren looked at the symbols. The sword called to her instincts, the flame to her ambition, but the open hand felt right. She stepped toward it. Her fingers touched the handle. The door opened and she saw herself, years from now, standing before a crowd of mixed species, human, Threx, others unknown. She was not wearing armor. She wore simple clothes. And her voice was calm, not shouting orders, but sharing truth. The image faded. The door closed. The hall vanished. She was back in the ruins, breathing hard, sweat on her face. Nira was beside her, smiling. You passed, she whispered. Viren looked around. The figures, the light, the voice all gone, but something remained in her heart, a calm she hadn't felt in years. The terminal blinked once, then died forever. Its purpose complete. Outside the jungle was quiet, not in anger, but in peace. They stepped into the sunlight again, and this time Viren didn't look back. The jungle had taken much, but it had given something greater, a future she was no longer afraid to face. The ship waited on the other side of the valley, old and rust-covered, but still working. Its engines hummed quietly as Viren and Nira walked toward it. Step by step, they left the jungle behind. But not the memory that would follow them forever. The Threx Empire had sent them to explore, to conquer. But Viren returned with no army, no trophies, only silence, and a small pendant hanging from her neck. As they reached the ship's ramp, a soft voice came from the speaker. "Identify, General." "Viren," she said, her voice steady but low. "Authorization Kylene 4. The scanner paused, then beeped. "Identity confirmed," it said. The ramp lowered, and stale air blew out. She stepped inside with Nira behind her. It felt strange to walk on metal again after so long on soft ground. Inside the command deck, lights flickered back to life. Screens lit up, showing old reports, old orders, old faces. But Viren didn't sit in the command chair. Instead, she touched the panel and opened a comm log. She recorded her voice, calm and clear. "This is General Viren, reporting the loss of Alpha Squad on Draxo 7. Cause of mission failure, leadership error." She paused, then added, "Personal pride caused avoidable deaths," she sent. The message, not to protect herself, but to make sure the truth was heard. Nira stepped forward. "They'll question it," she said. "They'll say you were tricked. Or corrupted." Viren turned to her. "Then let them," she said. "I'd rather be remembered for telling the truth than for winning a lie." The engine started warming, but the pendant around her neck pulsed softly. She held it in her hand. It was smooth and warm, like something alive. She remembered the voice in the cave. "If you break it, the jungle will return." Back in the jungle, she had learned to listen, to face her past, and to choose her future. But now she was going back to a place that had no patience for weakness. An empire built on control, fear, and power. And she was about to challenge it. "I'm not going back to command," she said suddenly. Nira blinked in surprise. "Then, where will we go?" "To the colonies," Viren replied. "To the edge worlds, the forgotten places. I'll teach what I've learned." Nira smiled. "People will listen," she said. "Especially if you tell them what the jungle did." Viren shook her head gently. "No," she said. "I won't tell them the jungle changed me. I'll tell them I changed because I listened to a human." Silence filled the room, but it wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. Then the ship lifted into the sky. Dust blew in circles below as they rose above the jungle canopy. The trees looked still, even calm, as if they were watching, as if they approved, as the stars appeared through the clouds. Viren stood at the window and whispered, "I thought strength was about control, but now I know real strength is learning when to let go." The pendant pulsed once more, then faded to stone, its purpose complete. Back on the homeworld, months later, rumors spread like fire. The proud general had returned, but not to take her throne. She walked among common soldiers, teaching them respect, not for power, but for life. Some laughed at her, some tried to silence her, but many listened, because her words were different, and her eyes carried the weight of truth. One day, a Threx commander asked her, "What changed you, General?" She looked at him quietly and said, "I met a human who warned me, and I ignored him." The commander laughed. "And what happened next?" She smiled, not with pride, but with pain. "I paid the price," she said. "But I learned the lesson from that day on." The pendant was placed in a glass case. Not as a weapon, not as a trophy, but as a symbol. A reminder that even the proudest leaders must sometimes kneel to stand again, stronger than before, and deep in the jungle of Draxo 7. The trees remained still, the shadows deep, the warden silent, but every now and then the vines would shift. Just a little, as if remembering the one who listened, and in the darkness, A whisper would rise. She refused the human's advice. But now she teaches his wisdom.